All right, we are live. I'll just do some quick editing. All righty. Just hang tight. We'll do some quick editing here. Get this thing going. Ain't gonna be too long tonight. All right. Mic over. All right. Hang tight. Almost there. Almost there. Yeah, I think we're good. All right. All right. Hang tight 1 second. All right. All right. Ain't gonna be too long tonight. It's been a long day. You see, it's gonna be an open discussion, but real quick, let me just run through some quick announcements. First and foremost, most important thing on the agenda right now, the sixth annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference. Okay, that is open. We do have people registering, signing up. You can do that now. There is a cap limit. We're not there yet. I usually let people know as we get closer to the date. But that is open now to sign up. The event is going to take place October 19th to October to October 22nd. So it's October 19th to October 22nd here in Hollywood, Florida, which is South Fort Lauderdale. It's at Cultural Expressions. It's where we've had the event the past 2 years. It's extremely close, minutes from the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. That would be the airport you fly into. Minutes from the beaches, minutes from hotels, Airbnbs, restaurants. As I've said before, a lot of people who have come the past few years, this will be our 6th year doing it. A lot of people just Uber it. Some people rent cars, if they want to see other things, but everything is in close proximity. It's easy access to get to everything. And again, that's going to take place October 19th to the 22nd. And again, the itinerary on the 19th, which is Thursday, October 19th, we have a meet and greet. We meet up about 7:30, 8 o'clock. Everybody gets to meet each other, know each other, socialize. Then on Friday, I'm going to go over it a little bit detailed Friday from 9 to 4 p.m., we have classes, workshops, and presenters, people doing presentations on certain occult left-hand path topics. That'll be Friday on the 20th from 9 to 4. We will come back later in the evening, around 7:30, 8 o'clock. We do a group ritual together. After that group ritual, we go out to eat, socialize, hang out, kick it. Saturday, pretty much the same schedule. Saturday's our second day of classes, workshops, and presentations on the 21st from 9 to 4 p.m. We have an outdoor working on Saturday evening, more than likely at the beach, possibly at the cemetery also. We come back in the evening to do that also on Saturday, again, followed with the second night of, getting some food, kicking it, hanging out, and all that good stuff. The event closes out on Sunday the 22nd on noon to 4 p.m. I'll be doing a Q&A, a question and answer session, pretty much on anything you guys want to ask, anything about the conference. A lot of people ask a lot of questions about things that took place during the conference. It's a great experience. But come prepared, because you never know what kind of ritual we're going to throw at you. It gets very interesting sometimes. So if you want to attend, you can attend in person. You could hit me up on the email. You see it in the description box of the videos. You also see it going on the ticker on the bottom, khnum19@gmail.com. You can also attend virtually, which gives you access to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's classes and workshops. So if you are interested in attending, this will be our 6th year doing this and counting. It's something that we do every year. We do it around this particular time during the end of October, approaching our high time of the year, the Sabbath, as I said. As we enter the winter solstice or darkness or stasis, it's a time for deep internal inner spiritual growth. We don't look at what they call the winter solstice as darkness in a negative light. It's one of the most powerful times of the year for a magician, a sorcerer, a black adept, an occult practitioner, whatever title you want to use. And it's where one really goes deeply intent on personal work. We always time it for that time of the year. And one of the themes we always work on is reflecting on the past year and focusing on our goals for the new incoming year. Very important. We use it also as a time of year to gauge our success and our failures, right? Hopefully everybody from last year set goals. Now you're going to look back and be honest with yourself. What did you achieve and what did you fail at? So it's a really a powerful time in the sense for uncovering personal hidden gnosis of yourself. All right, so you can shoot me an email. You can register and sign up for that now. And we're in the process of finishing up the itinerary. Once you sign up, you do get a digital itinerary of all the day's events. It's easier like that. You keep it on your phone. So you're kept in the loop. You also will get email on instructions. What you need to bring, just minor stuff, minor things you'll need to bring, like ritual attire when you participate in the rituals, and just some stuff to wear on the beach, just basic essentials. We'll give you all that information. And that's it. You just need to get yourself here, register, pay the cost of the conference, and then get yourself here. And that's it. So looking forward, hopefully. I know we got some returning people coming, a couple of new people already, and I'm looking forward to see some more new people. All right. So shoot me an email. I'll send you that info. Also, if you're interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, you see at the bottom, I offer various different readings, Klepothic demonic readings, Egyptian oracle readings, Santa Muerte readings, shadow work readings, as I've always said, is a great thing to always explore the shadow and the hidden self, which is ongoing work on this path that never ends. Deity readings to see what kind of demons, spirits, gods, and goddesses walk with you. Anyway, you can shoot me an email and I'll send you a full list. And I'll also send you information on how to book a reading or a consultation. We'll set that up. It saves time if you include the time zone that you are in, because as I said, I deal with people in all the different time zones within the United States. And I also deal with people overseas, Africa, Europe, and the time zone situation can be a little hectic and crazy for me. Like this past Thursday was nuts. I was doing work with people from England, Belgium, the United States, the West Coast. It made it a little bit challenging, my schedule on Thursday. So please, specify that. It saves time. All right. Also keep in mind all this new content, not so much the lives, but the short videos that I put up in some existing content is now available also on the Primordial Chaos podcast. The direct link to that is in the description box of the videos, along with my contact info. And then the Patreon page, if you want to get in on the classes that we do. People always email me, how can I sign up for your classes? What kind of classes you offer? Well, the way to do that is to go to the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, tier 3. That's the tier you want to join. That will give you access to all 3. I do 3 private classes every month on Patreon for Patreon members only. And also we do a group ritual at the end of the month. So if you join tier 3, because people always ask this question, you don't just get access to the classes from the day you join moving forward. You also get access to everything in the archives, okay? And I have a bunch of ongoing series on various topics. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. That's how you get in on the classes. The link to that also is going on the ticker on the bottom there, and it's also in the description box of the videos. We are live right now. Also, check out our other social media platforms, Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram. We are live on there. We are also on Primordial Chaos, 2 words, on Facebook right now. And we're live here on Primordial Chaos on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the like buttons, get the likes up, get this algorithm going. Because as you know, I don't talk about mainstream shit. So they be fucking with my views. I already know. But anyway, get that algorithm up. All right, so this is just going to be a really open discussion. I'm going to go in the chat, see what you guys are chopping up. Let's kind of, as long as it ain't spooky shit. I'm not in a spooky mood. We just did a class earlier today, Eastern Occult Left-Hand Path class. We were talking about some good shit in there. We were talking about dark matter, dark energy, visible energy. We were talking about the aromatic current, things of that nature in that class today. I'll try to get to most of these. So this is just basically open discussion. I'm not going to really, I'll flow with it for a little bit. Don't plan on staying too long, but I say that all the time. So let's see what kind of questions, comments. So if you got a question on something, as long as it ain't spooky, okay? No spooky shit, because you might not like my answer. All right? So let's see what we got in here. Fernal blessings, greetings, good evening to Zach. I'll spend a little more personal time with you guys today. Metaphysics, I like that. I like the way you spelled that. Peace. Nicole Dixon, what's going on? Peace. Devin, what's going on, brother? Greetings. Shamafia. We always butcher your name. What's going on, sis? Glad to see you here. Jonathan Hernandez. Ruben C. Says, hey, Baniti, I love your videos. I'm learning a lot. I appreciate that, Ruben. Ruben says, I want to learn more about Set. What Patreon tier do you recommend? The Egyptian Heka tier. You get access to all of the classes, but you also get to get with me at least once a month. And I kind of guide you through that path, because Egyptian Heka path, or that tier, is solely designed on working. It's around the priesthood or the orderhood of Set or Satuk or Seth. And everything is geared around him in those teachings. And on that tier, I show you how you set up your Egyptian Heka altar, how you work with the triad of light and darkness. You do work with a multitude of Egyptian deities, but all leading you to dark sorcery of Set, which then gets into the darker aspects of Set in his vampiric form as you progress on the tier. And that tier is a mentorship program. And I just want to say this about the mentorship programs. It's time. It's work. Please do not sign up on a tier for a mentorship program and you don't have the time to put in. Very important, because one, in this day and age, my time is important, or what they're calling time, right? This illusionary thing they call time. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste my time. I'm just going to keep it straight to the point. It's work. If you're not willing to work, I'm going to put you to work. If you're not willing to work, because I'm just going to be honest with you, a lot of us that have been on this path and have gained success and grown, we got here by doing a lot of work. Okay, this is not a fly-by-night, snap your fingers, poof, puff the magic dragon, kumbaya, run through the grass fields butt naked, singing fucking lullabies. That's just not this path. If you want to apply yourself and you're going to put in the work and you really are determined, then yeah, go ahead. I'm just speaking in general, not personally to you, Ruben, but I'm just saying in general, it's a commitment. It is. And look, we all got busy lifestyles. I get all the excuses. I'm busy, I'm working 2 jobs, or I'm running my business. I got kids. You ain't said nothing I ain't got. Okay? Manage your time. That's not an excuse. I've mentioned to you guys before, I'm up every day, 5 a.m. I get everything done. It's about how bad do you want it. That's all. Like I said, people can come up with a million reasons why they can't do something. But when you ask them, give me one reason why you can't, they can't come up with anything. Right? So with the mentorship tiers, I'm very serious about that as far as getting to work, making the time. And please, I do this too. Be on time for your sessions. Be courteous, because 9 out of 10 times I got people before you and after you. Sometimes people want to lollygag in 10, 15 minutes. I give you a courtesy window, but once it crosses the line, I got to be considerate to those who are there on time, who are there ready to work, right? That's just the way it is. Business is business. You pay me for a service, I got to provide you with the service. But I also expect, business etiquette back, right? Part of it is a business, all right? But yes, you could check out that tier. Having said that, brother, check that tier out. If you really want to learn about the mysteries of Set, and it's all precepted on what they call Egyptian Heka. It's not no spooky Egyptian shit. It's not this watered down conscious community, most high. No, let me stop. I'm just joking. But yes, that would be the way to go, brother. That would be the way to go. All right, I'm looking for questions. Open discussion. Talk to me, man. Talk to me. What y'all got? All right, I see Mojo got a question. Mojo. Hello, can you give us insight on the ritual significance of libations and how it applies to the left-hand path? Yes, good question. Well, first of all, let's talk real quick about what we need to be careful we don't do. Now, in a lot of ATRs, African traditional religions or spiritual, I don't want to just say African traditional spiritual systems, but a lot of spiritual systems in working with the ancestors, libations are poured out. You could pour libations out for spirits and demons and gods and goddesses too. It doesn't just have to be, for the ancestors. But let's start real quick with the ancestors. As I said before, if you're pouring alcohol out for libations for your ancestors, not a wise move, okay? Because when you do it as a whole, you are summoning forth energy of your ancestors. And unfortunately, some of your ancestors were alcoholics, okay? And that alcohol might have led them to do things that they shouldn't have done. So you don't want to attract an ancestral spirit where you're creating a gateway or a porthole to connect them to an addiction that was a struggle for him or her while they were here. So I don't encourage pouring libations out for all of your ancestors. It doesn't mean you can't give offerings, like a traditional offering uses white rum. When it's specific ancestors, you have productive relationships, and or either through an understanding of your family or yourself with your personal relationship when they were alive, that's different. But I'm talking about just inviting all of them to your ancestral communion, the ones you don't know. And the reality is, I know we all like to think we're perfect. The reality is some of our ancestors were murderers, killers, criminals, alcoholics, drug addicts. So not everybody is welcome. So you don't want to pour libations out in that regards. Now, depending on your spiritual path and system, it's of choice. Now, offerings and libations is not really huge on the occult or the left-hand path. It is done in certain circles. It's personal preference. My only thing is, remember, when liquid, whether it's alcohol, which contains ether, or the natural element of water, it is a conductor of energy, right? It's no different when you go back to Santeria or Ifa or the Yoruba path. If you come from that background, you see how, for an example, rum is used ritualistically. It's also, coming from that path and being initiated in that path years ago, it's used, if you've ever, they use it in cleansing sometimes at these ritual gatherings where it's sprayed, where the person that's possessed will drink it and cleanse and completely spray you. It's a conductor of energy. You must be very aware of that. Alcohol contains ether, which activates that energy even more. So all I would say is be very conscious and aware of what kind of liquid or elixir you're using for that libation, and in what context are you using it. It should be connected in some shape, form, or fashion to the deity, the spirit, the demon, the god, or the goddess that you're working with. And yes, it can be used. It's personal choice. There is no specific do's or don'ts. It's really preference. I mean, I've occasionally done it. I don't really, not really huge on it, but it can be done. And when you're pouring libations or you're giving offerings or things of that nation, it's not of that nature. It's not for the purpose of worshiping. It's to acknowledge and show reverence, right? It's just like the same thing I say for years. We don't practice ancestral worship, right? You can't worship yourself. You can't worship the same blood that runs through your veins, runs through the blood of your ancestors. So it's just foolishness. Veneration is different. It's acknowledging, right? When you're venerating something, you are acknowledging the greatness of it. Not only are you acknowledging the greatness of what you are connecting with, but you're acknowledging the greatness within yourself. So when it comes to that aspect, I prefer to use the word ancestral veneration, not worship. Okay. So hopefully that helps you. Okay. Yeah, Xander, we didn't see you in the Patreon class, man. I was surprised. I was looking forward to some of your jokes, man. Let me stop. Yeah. No worries. Can't get to all of them, but you're usually at all of them. I figured you was busy, so all right, but good to see you here. I wasn't going to pop on tonight. Good question here by Devin McLean. Do rituals have to be long to be effective? Absolutely not. 100,000%. No, you can do a ritual just in the power of your mind, right? So let's talk about that. This is a really good question. Some people are under the illusion, if I create this long, elaborate, detailed ritual, it's going to be so powerful and effective. And that necessarily doesn't mean jack diddly squat. It's always about your intent. Is your intent fueled correctly? Is it in alignment? Is there a passion, a desire, and a willpower to really be motivated to carry out that result? So let me give you an example. I've seen people create these long, elaborate rituals with all the trimmings, the bells and the whistles, and it's very detailed and elaborate. And that sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, that could be overkill, right? You got to be careful. I'm along the line more, less is more. People that work with me know my rituals are detailed, effective, but I try not to get super long-winded. Now, there are some work we've done could be a little time consuming, but I try to avoid that unless you're a person that thrives off of that. But let me give you an example. I've seen this with myself, with talking to others, experiencing it, et cetera, et cetera. You can create this long, elaborate ritual, say, for working with Lucifer, Lord of Air, right? Just giving you an example. Or it could be Belial, or it could be Kali, or it could be Sekhmet. And you could have all this detailed stuff. And then I've seen people do a simple invocation, a sigil meditation, go into a personal visualization, and maybe that ritual took 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whereas opposed to the other one could have took an hour, hour and a half. And sometimes I've seen people get greater results from something very simple, short, straight to the point. Okay. It's not about how long and elaborate your rituals are. It's about how you fueled your intent. Did you put that passion and fire and desire behind it? That's the key. That's the goal. It's personal, right? Some people just like to get all complex. They like to get super elaborate. That's you. That's your business. If you're one of those people, right? I'm speaking in general. But the answer to your question, absolutely not. The most important thing is your intent and alignment. Have you set a practical goal? For an example, as I've said many times before, you can't want to be a superstar player in the NBA and you ain't got a lick of basketball talent. So it don't matter if your ritual is elaborate, long, or short. There's got to be something you can build upon there, right? Let's not take magic and make it spooky, because if we could just snap our fingers, poof, then it would be easy. But no, most definitely your rituals do not have to be long to be effective. I've got regular practices like this Friday, every Friday or Saturday. Today I did it on Saturday. I have a regular weekly practice I do that takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and I started it several months back, and it's become so effective. That's another thing. Creating something consistent can be very powerful and effective for your personal growth. But long story short, the answer to your question, absolutely not. Okay. All right, what else we got here? Okay, I see you put that question in twice. I already answered that. What divination tools would you recommend for the left-hand path? I still have Agboni coconut, but I want to use something more in line with this. So, all right, but the Agboni, the coconut, that's more for like African spiritual systems like Ifa, right? And that's okay. But divination tools more so for the left-hand path. Well, first of all, you got to find your niche. It's personal, right? But there's many options. There's runes. You can use stones. There's various tarot card decks out there. Now, let me talk about tarot card decks. There's a lot of bullshit. Don't. I'm not talking about new age. There's dark occult tarot decks out there. But see, when you're using divination tools, the thing that we do on this path, whether it's stones, runes, oracles, tarot cards, these are the standard ways. Some pendulums, you can use pendulums too. It's really preference, right? It's a matter of preference. But you must make sure, and I did a video on this, how to be a good divinator, reading cards and tools. You must stamp your own personal energy on it, right? So for an example, you don't get a tarot card deck and just read the instruction booklet and use the instruction booklet. No, I use multiple different decks when I do readings for people. And it's just a matter of what the spirit communicates to me. But here's the thing. I don't use any of the methods that's in the books, because once I stamp, for an example, a tarot card deck with my energy, the cards take on a whole different communication and meaning to me. I don't even, whatever's in the book, I don't care. I might just glance through, when I get a new tarot deck, I might just glance through the book and read it real quick just to get a little more understanding of the illustrations and the meanings of the cards. But then I'd always do a ritual where I cleanse the deck, I charge it, and I stamp my personal energy on it. And also another thing that's very important, never let other people touch your cards. They should always, I keep them near my altar, close to a place where they can absorb that spiritual energy. Some like to wrap them in cloth, specifically a black one. Not really necessary or mandatory, but I like to keep them in a, covered in a pouch, protected. And definitely don't let a lot of other people touch them, because when you have not just cards, anything, any of your divination tools, you don't want other vibrational energy to get on there, right? And that's why I'm like that with your altar in general. You shouldn't have everybody just probing your altar or touching your altar tools, whether that's divination tools, your ritual dagger, or any implements on your altar, period. Because that's your personal connection or vessel of energy that connects you to the spirit world, right? So I don't suggest you let others probe it, right? Now, you mentioned the Agboni coconut. You must be skilled, though, obviously, in Ifa to read the coconut shells, right? It can be used, right? I used to use them years ago. But again, it depends on your practice, what philosophies or spiritual systems that you work with. Because, like, for an example, the Norse path, you could use runes. Runes can be used across the board in multiple systems, which I do like to use them. Stones, oracles, there's a bunch of things you could use. So you kind of need to find your niche or your path. All right. What else we got? Okay, so it's funny because we were talking about this question here. What's triple darkness? We were talking about this today in the Patreon class, right? And well, let me actually get the book. Nah, I don't want to get the book. And we were talking about, you'll also hear this term years ago. One of my first, as you guys know, introduction to what we call consciousness was the 5% nation, right? The nation of gods and earths, the 120. And this is a term you'll see in those lessons. You also, NOI, which is the lessons, very similar. You'll see it in there. And that question has always come up. And I was talking about in the class today, how we always used to have builds on that. And people would always try to add on to those builds and break that down. Actually, let me get the book. We were talking about it today. It's a good outline to get a good understanding. Now, hold on. Some notes that I took. Hold on. right, so this was something we were talking about today in the Persian Magic book of Ahriman by Curtis Joseph, right? So this is a good question. It's funny. Well, it's not a coincidence. I'm sure you bring it up all in sequence what we were doing, right? So we were talking about what I said in the beginning. First, we were building today on, dark energy. We were building on dark matter and visible energy, right? And then we were taking it back to what we call triple stage darkness, right? The first stage of that would be before light, or what they're calling light, right? And we were talking about how even when you go into just to use it to get an understanding, even when you look for an example, and let me grab that too. I didn't really want to do all this, but hold on. And sometimes what we would do is, just because they left traces of it in the watered down biblical stories, there's traces of it right there. So as I said, that first stage would be before light, right? So, and we were talking about this today. When you go into Genesis 1, again, not because we're using this as something you can connect to show that they've taken this stuff, they've left little hints to it. All right. And this is the King James version nonsense, right? It says in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, right? So the reality is, even religious folks would have to admit, in that state of nothingness or darkness, which is clear because then when you read further down, without having to go through that too much, then you see this so-called statement made by this biblical God, and then God said, "Let there be light," right? So, which is confirmation, as I've said many times before over the years, which is confirmation he existed in darkness. So we got to get out of our mind, darkness is not an evil thing, it's the supreme state of existence, right? We referred to it as the void and the abyss, the state of nothingness, right? And not nothingness in the sense of what you think, because there's a play on words there, because phonetically, when you look in the English language, nothingness or nothing or no thing, right? When you break the word down phonetically, you have to have nothing first in order for you to have something. So that first stage is before light, right? The second stage, okay, or before light, you could even refer to it as energy. Whatever you want to refer, nothingness is just. Now you got to remember, we're talking about a topic. We're trying to answer something that really has an explanation outside a three-dimensional explanation of person, place, and thing. So it's hard to do that. So we have to use three-dimensional things to kind of explain it to the best of our ability. So keep that in mind. It actually it goes a little bit more complex than this, right? All right. The second one is when and I always talk about this, before time, right? What we're calculating as linear time is a super fucking illusion. It's not real. It doesn't exist, right? And how you know that, I always use the analogy, once you break that spell or barrier of what they're calling false linear time, I've used many analogies to show you that all that is the contract and expansion of existence, or what we're calling time. And I always use that thing, if you throw a rock into a body of water, right? We might have all done this when we were kids. When that rock hits the center of where it falls, there's a rippling effect out from the center of where that rock hits. So that second stage of existence is before what we're calling or calculating, whether it's cyclical time, now that gets into something else, movement of the planets, stars, the solar system, because until they were created, time was not calculated, right? That's the second form. The third one comes in alignment with before soul and spirit, right? This is you in your pure, which some different paths call, when we all use the term that we're beings of energy, we say these demons, these gods and goddesses are energy. Some people refer to it as ether energy. The Rosicrucians refer to it as vital life force, Etherian beings, right? When they say we're comprised of all of these gases or ether, because we know when we look at the state, we all came from that energy state into a liquid state, and then into a solid, right? Which coincides with those three stages of what they're calling darkness. So when you correlate that, there's a connection there, right? Because prior to any of this existed, it just, and it's going to sound crazy, it was just existence. It's the best way you can explain it in English language, because people that try to use this stupid ideology that some God created everything, they get stuck like Chuck. You just got to ask one question and one question only. How did God get there? And this is where all the hamada, you can't answer that question. You can't. Being confound a person, place, a thing, you'd never understand it. Okay? So that's the quick breakdown. There's a little bit more to it, but those are the three stages. Most people, and like I said, years ago, we used to have debates about that. I mean, people came with their own breakdowns on it. But in a nutshell, I mean, those things need to be explored even further, right? But we're talking about something that exists beyond three-dimensional comprehension, right? So hopefully that helps. All right, what else we got? Shamafi, yes, I did see you join the Patreon. Well, good to see you there. That's good. Yeah, that just make sure. I say this to everybody though, important, and you're probably doing it, but it just kind of reminded me. With the ongoing series, it's important to go in order, because there's a lot of classes in some of them, like the shadow work class. We're up to 18, and I have to say this because it happens all the time. People will join and they'll jump around in the shadow work class. They'll go watch 10 and 12, and then you can't do that, especially with that one. Because if you are on the Patreon page, most of these classes have ritual work. They have assignments. There's a lot of information covered in detail. So I just want to make that clear. You got to make sure you're doing these in order. And I'm sure you are, but it just, seeing you say that reminded me of that. But I'm glad to see that you got on there. I did see when you joined. Ruben C says, are there any right-hand practices that you still believe are practice? For example, do you work with angels? All right. So let's establish this. In essence, and I'm glad you guys are coming with some questions, good questions. In essence, it's just how we define and break down the energy. Really, there's no such thing really as right or left-hand path. It's only when you are distinguishing the energy or the vibrational frequency that you're working with. As I said before, a true practicing, harmonized black adept, black magician, occultist knows their goal is to embody the aspects of what we call light and darkness in their own personal harmonious form. This is why Lucifer in the form of the adversary is such a critical element to our work, because he is the one, the light bearer, who embodies darkness and light simultaneously. And it's all along the principle, one must go into the darkness to do the work of the light. You must go into the darkness to gain that true light / intellect or knowledge. Now, as far as any right-hand path practices, I'm just going to assume when you say working with angels, I don't really do any of that angel magic. I'm going to tell you why. I know some people do like work with Raphael and Gabriel and the angel Michael. There's darker occult breakdowns to who they are. So we do work with them in their more darker forms, which that's going to be a little time consuming to go through. But doing like angel magic, the reason why you got to be careful is, in my opinion, whether it's like, for an example, in the, we were talking about this earlier, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which deals working with archangels. To me, you got to be careful because it connects you to the current and the energy of Hebrew mysticism, and then you're back to religion, right? An enslaved form of religion. Now, having said that, it also depends on the context you're working with. So for an example, in some occult practices, such as the 21 divisions, right? If you're familiar, it's like Dominican voodoo or voodoo, right? They work with San Miguel in a totally different form than one would know in mainstream religion, right? So it kind of just depends on your context. Now, when we talk about angels like Samael and things of that nature, yes, we do work. And remember, let's also dispel the myth. The English word angel just comes from the Greek word angelos, which means messenger, right? So that's important we understand that, because a lot of these beings were messengers, right? They represent a certain aspect of consciousness or spirituality. And when you work with any of these demons or spirits, or if you want to refer to some of them as angels, you're connecting with the consciousness that they represent, right? Samael is the great destroyer and rebuilder, right? He's not just the angel of death because he brings physical death. He can rip an individual apart and destroy all of their weaknesses, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially at some points too, right? So he's the great deconstructor and reconstructor. Now, when you tie it into religious mythos, they say the angel of death comes to collect the soul of the individual, right? He also has a connection as a gateway spirit or demon to the spiritual abode, right? Or the afterlife. I'm just using basic terms that people as a whole can grasp. So my point being is, long story to your question, is it depends in what context, but I don't do like angel magic with all that. I mean, I'm not knocking anybody that does. If you do or anybody listening does, I just got to keep it 100 here. I don't really deal with that stuff, nor do I really teach anybody that stuff. I've had people reach out. Can you connect me with the angel Raphael? Nah, I don't. I just don't mess with that stuff. You know, I'm not knocking anybody that does. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, what else we got? I don't know if it's Abi or Abby. Hello, Baniti. I have a question. Does astrology hold any significance in terms of knowledge of self beyond the personality? Of course it does, 100%. Now, you guys have known my views on astrology over the years. Disclaimer and warnings. Astrology, like if you do your natal chart, it can be a very helpful tool, most definitely, to help you understand yourself. Yes, beyond your personality, it could help you understand your spiritual makeup. It could help you understand, maybe where you've picked up some spiritual connections with certain beings that are in your natal chart, right? It could, depending in some cases, open the door to past life existences. I think it can help in a multitude of understanding your power, not just your personality. So it can go beyond that on a multitude of levels. And if you're using it for things for higher spiritual understanding of yourself outside, like you say, of just your characteristics and your personality, and my moon is in this and all that. I'm not really into all that shit, but I always give a disclaimer. Some people get too fanatical with it. And I know you're not really asking it from that point, but I'm just want to put that out there. When every move, choice, or action an individual carries out, they base it on some astrological movement. But to your question, yes, it does hold significance because I think it can tell a lot of things about your spiritual power and your energy, and it could open up your psyche to things you didn't know about yourself, right? Like a lot of people, for an example, like in my natal chart, I have a connection with Lilith, the sun, and through Scorpio. I mean, understanding also what those astrological signs mean, I look more for the aspect of your spiritual power, the spiritual energy that you harness. And it could tell a lot of things about yourself you did not know. Like maybe you had certain things going on in your life. Maybe you had certain struggles. Now you understand better where it came from. Maybe you had some power that you could not really explain, right? But you knew it was there. It was effective. It was working. You used it and you manifested things, and you can uncover stuff there that might give you more clarity on it. So yes, it definitely can be used for things beyond the personality. I just say use it as another tool of growth. I just ain't into all that Venus in retrograde and, my pussy's tingling. I can't, and all that. I just can't do that. That stuff to me is religious. Oh, it's the blood moon. You shouldn't do no work. That's for spookism. Let me say this. A good magician, I don't care if the moon is waxing, waning. I don't care what phase the moon is in. I don't care what the planetary sign. Sometimes you got to get shit done. And a good magician, regardless, doesn't matter what the signs are, Like people always say, don't do work in Scorpio when the moon is waning. I do work in that time because that's a very chaotic time. For a chaos magician like myself, I can draw a lot of power from the moon and that chaotic energy. That's totally false for people on this path. Now, the traditional astrologist will say the complete opposite. So I don't use it in regards to any of that bullshit because that to me takes us back to religion. I'm not going to let the movement or the waxing and waning of the moon dictate what I got to do is what I'm saying. Now, can these energies affect you? I've never said they couldn't. Because sometimes over the years, people have me talk about, but it's a fact. Yeah, I'm not saying it can't. But what I'm saying is, as a god or a goddess centered in your personal power, are you telling me that would prevent you from performing and getting a result? Then I have to question who and what you are and what you're linked in and connected to. That's my point. Okay. So hopefully that helps you. Xander says, what do you think of people who go into graveyards and pour out alcohol as a libation before entering? So let's answer that one first. Seems that may not be good since there could be a lot of allies in the city. Yeah, again, you kind of answered the question kind of where I was going to. I'd be careful because there's other spirits that have transitioned on that are hovering in that graveyard. They may not necessarily be yours, but they could be others, and they too could have been alcoholics or murderers. Now, it's different if you go to a specific grave of an ancestor and do it. Now, that's more of a tradition. Here's one thing, to me, to show reverence to the spirits of the dead as a whole, if you're going into a graveyard or a cemetery to do work, there's two things you could do. You could either clap your hands lightly 3 times. Some bring a small bell and ring it 3 times. And it's just as simple as saying you're not intruding on the space of these spirits that have transitioned on. And there's a lot of energy in there if you work in graveyards and cemeteries. So I'll say something. I'm entering the realm or the abode of the spirits of the dead that have transitioned on. I'm showing you honor and respect to letting you know I am entering your domain. And also you do it when you exit. So to me, just a simple gesture of clapping 3 times or tolling a small bell you can carry with you, or maybe you got another method, some way of just acknowledging them, letting them know you're entering and exiting. I don't know if I would pour. I know people do it. I've heard of it. You can do whatever you want, but just know what you're doing. Now, if you don't care and you're inviting all that and you're cool with it, and maybe you're super, super dark and chaotic and you just don't give a fuck, that's on you. There's times when you got to do work of destruction and you harness all that power. So maybe in a particular case like that, you want to absorb all that energy. I know it's going to sound crazy. Maybe you want the energy of a killer, if you understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to get too deep into stuff like that on open platforms because I'm not one of those spiritualists who get on YouTube and talk about all the destruction work they do for clients and they'll kill motherfuckers for you. First of all, ain't no real killer going to get on YouTube publicly talking about shit like that. That's number one. Red flag. Okay, I've said that before. Stop falling for that bullshit. As that old saying goes, real bad boys and bad girls move in silence. They ain't going to talk about it. They're just going to be about it. And stuff like that, you just don't openly talk about, right? So having said that, we'll leave that there. But yes, as far as pouring libations, again, like anything else, you must be knowledgeable of the situation, all right? Ruben C. says, do you believe in the ancient civilization of Lemuria? As I said before, I don't, in the term, I'm not saying you meant it like that. I don't believe in anything on face value. But yes, I do acknowledge the civilization of Lemuria, which reminds me, I just saw the preview and I didn't know they did a sequel. I'm looking forward to it because there was a lot of jewels in the first one. Looks like they're releasing the Aquaman 2 around Christmas. But Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, yes, there is, when you do the research, there is a lot of evidence to suggest. So when I have data and evidence, then I make my own decision. Now, being a 12th degree Rosicrucian, our order, and again, my membership is active, but I'm not like I used to be years ago. But if anyone knows what I'm talking about, if you're an initiated Rosicrucian, especially the temple degrees, which takes about 6-7 years to get to, Their order is rooted in the ancient civilizations of Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu, right? And they teach in there that this is what they teach. I'm not telling you to accept this, that the ancient Egyptians were descendants from that civilization. There's a lot of information and books out there that connect the two. So it's a matter of you doing your research, your data. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, what to accept. I'm going to encourage everybody to do their own research and come to their conclusions. So having said that, I do acknowledge the ancient civilization of Lemuria based on my research and my experience and my work as it being an actual civilization. Okay. All right. What else we got? Question. Shamafia says, when praying on the left-hand path, do you recommend I laser focus on intention, declare, command, and shout with passion? It is so. All right. So let me address this. Am I saying you meant it like this? We don't pray, in my opinion, on the left-hand path. And I know you didn't mean it in the form, but I'm addressing this as a whole. So I have to say that because I don't want you to think I'm targeting this to you. We don't use any form of monotheistic prayer on the left-hand path, like a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew would praying to unforeseen spook forces. Now, I could tell by the way you worded your question, that's not how you meant it, but I just need to put that disclaimer out there. Are there people on this path who say pray to Lucifer, Satan, and some of the masks or forms of the adversary? There are. And some of them look literally only in a literal aspect, just like a Christian would Jesus or God or Allah. They kind of look at the adversary in that form. And that's a monotheistic worship mentality. That's why I say we don't use prayer in that form. Now, some outsiders might look at when we do something called invocations, which can appear, it's like quote unquote a prayer. And I don't really like to use that word because immediately when you hear the word prayer or praying, let's just be factual. It connects you right back to religion, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism mainly, right? But when we use invocations to connect with the spirit, so I'm going to use that word. Invocation has root in the word to invoke. When you invoke something, you are summoning or calling something to you. So when we're invoking or calling the spirits and the demons, the gods and the goddesses, and acknowledging them, one, we're activating a higher aspect of our psyche because it all exists. We activate that power connection through our subconscious mind, regardless if we're given these deities shape, form, and visuals, because that was constructed based on everything you studied on these spirits and demons, images and artwork that you've laid your eyes upon. This is why you see them the way you see them, but it doesn't negate the fact it comes from your subconscious mind, the power of the mind. So I don't care if you've had an experience with Kali, Lucifer, this, that, or the other. You did because you stored the data and the information you collected in your subconscious mind. So when you go into meditation or ritual or invocation and you say, I saw Lucifer and he appeared as this or that, that's because you used every element you connected to and your subconscious mind created a construct of Lucifer, right? That's why you see things externally, right? Now, having said that, to answer your question, I would use more the approach of invoking. Yes, it's not a matter of shouting with passion and power. And some, yes, it depends on your energy, what you're connecting with, what you're doing. I would say, though, your intention always has to be in line and focused, regardless of how you're expressing it, right? You should be very commanding in your approach at all times, right? You should have good energy when you do it. Like, all right, this doesn't work. Lucifer. That's like no passion, no energy, no conviction, right? You do need to be focused on your intent and say it with some energy and passion. It's not necessary that you have to shout all the time. Sometimes you catch good energy, and yes, people do it, right? I've done it in rituals, right? Always end your work with, so it is done. Don't say that so mote it be shit. That's all religion. Because when you're saying so mote it be, what you are saying is I'm putting it in the hands of forces outside of myself, meaning I ain't got no control over it. When you're saying so it is done, you are affirming that what you just did and completed was effective, 100%, and it will work. And whatever you set out to accomplish, you accomplished. So we always end our invocations, our ritual work with "so it is done." But I would be careful using the term praying. I can only speak for what I do here on this channel. I don't teach anybody any form of praying, especially from a monotheistic perspective, because then we're back in the spell and indoctrination of worshiping things outside of ourselves. As I said, we don't worship the spirits, nor do we pray to them in that form. We walk side by side with them because they are part of us and we are a part of them. What you are doing is accessing a higher aspect of yourself in you're doing it in different fragments. Now, understanding demonic integration work is critical in understanding what I just said. But what you are doing is walking side by side and establishing, you're trying to embody and become what that energy represents. You're not trying to worship it, right? So if I'm working with Kali's she can clear paths, right? She's also a great deconstructor and reconstructor like many others. So I want to embody that power and that raw energy of devouring and destroying that Kali represents. So once I devour and destroy those things that I'm having issues with, I can also tap into her great power of reconstruction and start to rebuild and put myself back together, right? So that's, I'm trying to embody and become. And that's why when you're invoking, you're bringing that aspect and energy to you, that level of consciousness and awareness to you, as opposed to, say, in Christianity, where they go into some building and look up in the sky, and subconsciously, whether they aware of it or not, they're praying to some old man sitting on a throne with a long white beard. That's just comical to me. And I'm not saying you're coming from that perspective. I just got to address it as a whole. So hopefully that helps. Otani Journey says, are the guards archons? I just did a video on the demiurge, literally just yesterday. If so, why do we cater to entities that just want to rule over us? I said in that video, when you talk about archons is something that you'll see very familiar and associated with what they call the demiurge. There's a lot of spooky shit out there on the demiurge. I don't teach it as a lot of people who do. They talk about it's like some literal place, abode. It's almost like a religious form of hell, the way some people teach it. And there's these beings there called archons, and they can devour and destroy. That's all bullshit. All archons they are lower vibrational frequencies of your subconscious minds. It's the lower, weaker aspects of yourself. They're self-created demons that you create that are not productive for your spiritual path, that could feed off of your weaknesses. So let me give you an example. If you're a person who sinks into deep depression, if you're a person who is enshrouded in misery, despair, right? These are all gateways or doorways for that archon mentality or energy to take over your subconscious mind, and it can become a destructive, devouring entity. But you're always in control. Now, there are other people who even go a step further. I've heard people like David Icke, or Ick, whatever his name is, Ike. He talks about and connects archons to reptilian beings as that feed off of your subconscious mind, which is more maybe of a new age supernatural way of saying what I'm saying. They are basically low vibrational frequency bands or energies that exist in your subconscious mind. And when you are vibrating at a low frequency, they can cause issues. They can cloud your thinking. They can, get you off. When I say they, I'm talking about you can tap into the frequency of thought and energy, and it can become very distracting. Okay. But I want to make this clear. You are always in control. I don't teach anybody that there is some entity, being, or spirit that you are inferior to and you're powerless to, and they can devour you. So no, not the archer. Now you got to go back. If you go back to the essence of it, it comes from Greek mythology. So they were considered gods of a certain abode, right? In that phrase of the word, right? So it depends. It's whether you're looking in Greek mythology, whether you're looking in the form of the reptilians and that aspect, like David Icke teaches, or when you're looking more in alchemy and the occult, which is a little bit different, right? But again, some people teach like it's some literal place like purgatory, like the Catholics teach. I don't teach that shit. I do teach, it's just lower vibrational energy that exists in your subconscious mind. I do not teach that they're entities that could eat, devour, and destroy you. Okay. And you should never cater to any entity in that form, because here's the reality. What you accept as personal truth becomes real. So if you believe there's deities you're inferior to, that becomes your reality. I want to make that clear. Just like a Christian believes, their reality is they think some hippie's going to crack the sky and there's going to be some, what do they call that shit? Rapture. They sit around and they'll be long dead and gone, just like their mother and their grandparents and their great-great-grandparents. They'll be long dead and gone and transition on, and the next group of fools will be waiting on that. So what you accept to a degree, it becomes real. So if you believe that, and there's people that do, and I'm glad you bring this up. It's a good question. I've run into people who believe the archons are these reptilian, monstrous type of beings that exist in the demiurge that can eat, devour, and destroy you. There are people who believe that. I don't. I don't worry about any of that shit, because when you are God, center of your personal axis and universe and multiverses, you control, you build and destroy. I build and destroy what I want in my existence or domain, and I create what I want in my existence or domain. I am not inferior to any of that type of shit. So it also centers on you and your approach too. What do you accept as a reality in regards to that? But I do totally get the question, the point. It just depends. There's different perspectives on it. You could go to Greek mythology. You could go to stuff like David Icke with reptilians. You can go to more of the occult, alchemical breakdown of it, which to me is more in alignment. But I don't teach that spooky shit, that it's a place that you go and you can be tortured and destroyed. That's all Greek mythology. Okay. It's like when they say there's hell. When you teach it in regards to that, it's like a Christian who says there's this place called hell where you're going to get thrown into if you don't do everything we tell you, and there's demons and monsters there that are going to torture you. It's all mythology. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I figured you were saying alcoholics, alkies. I got you. I was like allies. I was like allies. What the fuck is that? I got you. Hopefully I'm saying this right. You redo. How do you destroy, remove parasitic entities, astral parasites, ether parasites? What is your take on how to deal with? I see you typed it twice, I think. Hold on. How to deal with them? It's a good question, and this is a problem. Okay. First of all, you always have to be conscious and aware if you're working with altars. If you've, I did a video a while back, establishing and understanding your connection and relationship with spirits and demons. I did that for what your question is entailing. You must be knowledgeable first and foremost of what you're working with. So let me give you an example. You can tack on or connect to you a lot of parasitic etheric entities or parasites by opening a doorway or a gateway through your crown chakra that you may not be prepared for, because a lot of these parasites work their way in through your crown, right? And this is why I tell people, when you're on this path and you really are open, I don't let nobody touch the top of my fucking head, right? We should never let a lot of people be around our head, because understand this, when you're in meditation and when you're in ritual, and especially if your pineal or brow chakra is activated and you got your energy systems all working and functioning, right? It's like if you're doing mantras and chanting in a ritual, I always tell people, you know you're doing it right when you feel that tingling at the bridge of your nose and right where your brow chakra is. That's the pineal being activated. And sometimes you can just feel that in meditation, but the vibration of a mantra or chant can get it activated and open it up. So whether that's done through meditation, a visualization, or a mantra or a chant, once you feel that tingling and that opening up, it starts to expand out and the crown now opens. Okay. So this is usually how they attach to you one way. This is one of the main ways. Now, when the crown is open, you're opening up, you're a porthole now for energy to enter. Now, how they know you're ripe for picking, I've talked about this all the time. When you look at the signs of understanding your aura, and you can do this through Kirlian photography, these beings of light and energy recognize other light and energy through vibrations, color, and frequency. So they can detect by the vibrational color of the frequency that you're giving off. So for an example, if some of the darker hues, now it depends, red is a little bit different, but when you're giving off a dark brownish, grayish color, that's usually a low countenance band who is ripe to be used as a vessel and a parasite to feed off of. That's usually a sign of somebody's aura who is not in control of their spiritual path. They're not grounded. They're usually dealing with a lot of emotional shit, mental problems. These are ripe candidates. They're always in states of mental duress and stress. I'm just giving you an example because this is a very complex question. This is not something that can be answered just with a few phrases, unfortunately. So what can happen is you can let them in through the crown, right? And dream states, right? Sometimes if you are one of those low vibrational frequency beings, because maybe you got a lot of shit going on, maybe there's a lot of calcification, and it's easy to even get in when you're in those low emotional states because they can feed off of the color and the vibration of your aura. Now that's why I said we always say these are beings of light and energy. We say, well, I'm working with energy. Well, understand when you're working with it in its purest form, it ain't got that physical body form. Energy can connect with energy on a multitude of levels. They can enter your dreams too, right? Because a lot of us, we leave our bodies or we have astral experiences in the dream realm, right? Now, the problem is once they are able to get in, they can feed off of you what I call this walk-ins, right? A walk-in is involuntary spiritual possession that you're not aware of sometimes. But what starts to happen is over time, clear signs develop. People, usually one sign is people start to notice an erratic change in your personality and your behavior. That's number one. Number two, you eventually at some point, unfortunately, hopefully not too long down the road, start to notice it. You start doing things you never used to do. Maybe you start eating things you never used to eat. That could be the spirit that's in you requiring that food. Maybe you're drinking or doing drugs you never did before. That could be that spirit, influencing you to do that because they're feeding off of that energy, right? So usually there's telltale signs you can identify it. Sometimes it's physical signs. Your health can start to deteriorate. You might lose your appetite. You might lose weight. You might gain weight. You might notice you have no energy. You might notice you just don't want to do anything. You're not motivated. You just sit around, do nothing all fucking day. I'm just giving you a bunch of things you need to identify first, right? Now, how to deal with them, that takes on a whole different aspect. One, there's different, obviously, ritual and spiritual cleansings you can do. You have to find somebody who's definitely skilled in certain herbs, certain elements that can be created to give that person a true spiritual cleansing, clean the aura, remove vibrational frequencies and energy. And I've seen this before, which sometimes it can get drastic. It exists. It's real. Somebody might need a full, I hate to use this word, but so people connect an exorcism ritual where the spirit is removed. And that has to be done by somebody that is skilled with that particular spirit, right? So there's rituals that can be done to pull a parasitic spirit out of an individual, right? This is why I always tell people when you're doing ritual work, you should always do grounding and cleansing, right? That could be a chakra meditation. I always recommend spiritual baths. These are pre-maintenance things you could do. Is the best way I can describe it to keep yourself, clear from all that stuff. But again, dealing with it is going to involve what exactly, what type of parasitical energy have you connected to? That's going to play a large role of how it needs to be addressed. And it could be something as simple as a spiritual ritual cleansing, or it could be a full-blown ritual that has to be done to pull that parasitic energy out. And that can be very intense. It's real, it exists, but always try to do the things you can do to prevent, to the best of your ability, getting to that state. Remember, it starts back to what I said, being knowledgeable of what you're working with. Because keep this in mind, if you understand, I've talked about a class of spirits called specters, right? S-P-E-C-T-R-E, specter spirits, right? Alan Kardec used to talk about it too in spiritism. Any books that deal with spiritism and working with spirits, good old occult books will explain this to you, okay? Specter spirits have the ability to read your thoughts, okay? So sometimes you have to be aware, and like the class of Ifrit jinns, they're very similar to those type of entities. And I know a lot of people who work with jinns have opened themselves up to a lot of crazy shit. I'm using that as an example because that can open you up to what you're talking about if you don't know what you're doing, right? So being knowledgeable of what you're working with is step one, okay? Because if you're working with a class of spirits who fall into that specter category, they could read your thoughts in your subconscious mind. So from them thoughts, for an example, if you're thinking about, it could be an ancestor, it could be about a specific spirit or entity or deity, they could take the shape and the form of that deity in your mind's eye and use it as a tool of bait to let you allow them in. Now, how do you protect yourself from that happening? One, obviously, from having that knowledge and awareness. And I always make a command, especially in ancestral work. I do not welcome any spirits. You make a firm command, but when you're locked in, you could usually feel the presence of what we call a specter spirit. You just know, it's just, you get this strong awareness. This is not, doesn't feel at all of what it seems to be. But when you're in a very low vibrational state, it's hard to detect. And sometimes the shit does happen. It can happen in your dreams because of what you've opened yourself up to. Because remember, when you're sleeping, especially flat on your back, and all of your chakras are aligned, and this is usually when you have an out-of-body experience or intense dreams, 9 out of 10, you may not be aware of it. It's usually when you're flat on your back, okay? And when that happens and you go into that alpha state and your body is vibrating at the same natural frequency of what they say the planet is 900 megahertz, that's when you can have an out-of-body experience. When you're vibrating with the same frequency of this planet, is in alignment with the same vibrational frequency of the energy when you go into that sleep state. So this is why people have out-of-body experiences. You're very ripe and open at those times too, right? So a lot of it is doing that awareness work. But when it happens, addressing it and dealing with it, a lot of that is going to depend on what it is we're dealing with here. We first would have to identify what it is, and then we would have to, based on that, see what we would have to draw up to address that. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Jesse Cat 31. Hello. Logan Scott says, thank you for answering that question. Brother Baniti, appreciate it. No worries. I didn't see you in class today either, brother. Okay, hello, everyone. Yes, and that's, I aim so far. Oh, yes, darkness predates light, right? In order to have something first, you must have nothing or nothingness or no thing first, 100%. But we look at darkness, to put it in basic terms, it's a state of supreme balance and existence, right? It's no difference when you look at the color itself, the vibrational frequency of the color black. Right, we all know as a little kid, you could take crayons or paint colors. If you start mixing red, yellow, green, blue, we all know it makes black, right? So it's the emergence of all, it's the complete infusion of all energy and existence that creates that supreme state of black or balancement or darkness, right? Even when you look at the color on the spectrum, right? The last or the deepest one is indigo or violet. And dark indigo or violet is almost like a purplish black. The lighter colors are faster moving colors on the spectrum. Like I've said before, we think when we look outside and the sky is blue, right? On a clear cloud where there's no clouds, the sky appears to be blue. It's not really that it's blue. It's just blue is the fastest moving color in the spectrum. So it appears to be blue, right? So understanding all that gives you a better idea of vibrational frequency and, energy and things of that nature. All right, what else we got? Yes, there's a phonetic play on words on the word angel, meaning angle, right? Yes, because you could just flip-flop a color the words. And we have something that connects on the path of the occult. If you go into LeVay's Satanic Rituals book, The Ritual of the Nine Angles, which later down the road was redone by I believe, let me stand corrected, Michael Aquino wrote that for the Church of Satan before he left the Church of Satan and then started the Temple of Set. But it's a good ritual. So yes, there's a play on that, right? Kenneth MC, is Papa Bones basically Lucifer in Obia or Obia? Yes. Now, the thing with Obia, I've done a few videos and classes on. I actually work with Papa Bones. The reason why they call him Papa Bones, to be initiated in Papa Bones in its entirety, there's a ritual where he encases all 206 bones in your body. That's one of the reasons for it. I'm not going to get into all that here, but Obia is one of those paths that infuses. You will see, if you're familiar, you will see some aspects of Palo Mayembe. You will see some aspects of Voodoo. Depending on how it's practiced and where, obviously real big in Jamaica and Trinidad. It's another Afro-Caribbean occult practice. Trinidad's a little different because Trinidad is one of the aspects in Obia that incorporates Kali, which is very interesting. Now, the reason why is, as you know, in Trinidad, there's a lot of East Indians that migrated to Trinidad. Trinidad has a large East Indian community that migrated there. So the infusion of Kali and how that got there is because of that. But there's a whole aspect of Kali that's acknowledged in Obia and Trinidad, for an example. There's also, just like Ifa got infiltrated by Catholicism and Christianity, some branches of it have been indoctrinated and watered down with Christianity, which I don't fuck with any of that stuff. But yes, Papa Bones would be their mask of Lucifer, the adversary in Obia, most definitely, 100%. A very powerful form of the adversary to do destructive work, curses, spells. I'm just going to say this without getting too in detail. That's my go-to to attack child predators. That's all I'm going to say. If anybody comes to me and they want to do work on somebody who molested children, that's all I'm going to say. And you don't want that smoke. Trust me when I tell you. That's type of entity Papa Bones is. Okay. What else we got? Yes, they are mathematic principles. That's why the Ritual of the Nine Angles deals with, breaks down that. That's a good, if you're not familiar with that ritual, anybody is not, it breaks into that. Another good book I think is by Toby Chappell. He gets into the math and the whole breakdown of the angles. It's a really good work. I actually know him. He was the magister of the chapter of the Temple of Set in Atlanta, Georgia, when I was part of that before I resigned from that nonsense. But yeah, there is definitely, there's math, there's geometry. There's a part in understanding that called the sacred geometry. He breaks that down in that book. It's a really good book. Okay. Is it a disadvantage? Ken says, is it a disadvantage to connect with people? Well, hold on. Is it a disadvantage to connect people with darker spirits, like doing money work for them if they don't work with those type of energies? It can be, right? It can be, because you could be, depending on their involvement in the work and depending what's done in the work, you could be opening somebody up for some shit they're not ready for, 100%. So I've seen people do it. It may not have any effect on them, but you just don't know. Okay. So yes, it is a possibility that can happen depending on the situation. Mars definitely makes my chicks tingle. Chocha, not chicks. Yo, you better fix that spell check. Yo, that spell check is jacked up, boy. I'm like, makes my chicks tingle. Yeah, man. It's just, yeah, that's how it goes. All right, what else we got? Yeah, this is the Miami Football Club. This is their jersey. This is their uniform. Yeah, this probably is the only thing pink that I own, but supporting them right now because they're doing phenomenal down here. And if you got to be a soccer fan or a football fan. They got Lionel Messi, so they're crazy down here with this now. and my little guys. So this is actually their uniform colors, pink and black. They also have a reverse of this. It's dark black with the pink. So I just thought it was cool. Yeah, not really usually a pink guy, but I'm not egotistical and trapped in my masculinity. If I want to wear pink, I'll wear it and be as manly as I want. Right? It's a mindset. But yeah, this is the Miami Football Club. All right. What else we got? I'm waiting for the new. Yeah. I saw the commercial for the new Aquaman. It looks pretty cool. Want to see. I from the preview, it looks like that he's fighting. I don't know. It's hard to grasp from the preview, but it looks like he's harmonized his human aspect. Like it looks like from looking at the preview, he's embraced. You see him with his family. It looks like he has kids in the preview. So it looks like his physical mundane life is in order and his spiritual. So from the first one, that was a challenge, but then it looks like something's coming for him, and it looks like he's got more chaos coming at him from what I saw, but it was brief, but we'll see. Eric Jones says, when making a pact with a demon or spirit from an occult perspective, do you have any tip or tricks or do's or don'ts to get maximum results? Well, again, as always, first foremost, be very knowledgeable of what you're making a pact with. That's number one, okay? My first advice would be whatever agreements you make in that pact, make sure whatever you are going to agree to, you're able to uphold that agreement. That's the most important fucking thing. For an example, especially I've made pacts with Santa Muerte. That's not a spirit you want to go back on making a pact with. Do you understand that? Could be with Bilal. It could be with one of the Goetias. It doesn't matter. Usually volatile things start happening when you break the pact or the agreement, okay? Now, it's not so much as tricks, because be careful. I'm not saying you mean it like from this perspective, but I need to address this as a whole. You don't want to bargain or be shady with certain aspects of spirits and demons that you're invoking. Because remember, this is all connected to you. You're not really fooling anybody but yourself, right? So I'm not saying you meant it in that regards. There's not really, I wouldn't look at there's not no quick tricks or quick shortcuts that you can take. I would just be consistent as everything else that you do. Keep the pacts to the agreement that you set them. That's probably the most important thing I can tell you, right? That's the biggest tip. That's the biggest advice I can give you. And how you're able to do that is real simple. Do not promise anything you can't upkeep. Okay? Because sometimes people will make a pact or an agreement, and then after a while, over time, it becomes hard for them to keep it, and they just get slack off on it and just don't do it. It can cause all type of psychic disturbances within your subconscious mind, because you're opening up your psyche to connect with this energy that resides within you. You're just bringing it out. So shit can just go haywire. Health problems can kick in. Shit can go wrong. Trust me when I tell you, right? So my thing is, obviously, do your due diligence, know what you're making a pact with. And by that understanding, you should know the do's and the don'ts. Simple. By understanding clearly what you are making a pact with. And just be consistent and make sure you're able to keep that pact/agreement. That's it. You will find, if you're able to do that, you will be able to establish healthy pacts with many spirits that you want to work with. Now, a lot of people do this in the form with Lucifer or Lucifuge, Rogal or Rojul, as some know. That's not one spirit you want to fucking break a pact with, right? That aspect of Lucifer will go butt shit crazy on your ass, right? So again, just make sure you're doing your due diligence. And do not agree to anything you cannot upkeep, okay? Shamafia says, in your opinion, would Ishu or Hecate the best force to invoke when doing a house exorcism? Well, let me say this. You can use them for that if you're just trying to clear vibrational energy from a house that's negative. especially Hecate, because she's the goddess of witchcraft and sorcery. So you can invoke her power in regards to that. Ishu, it depends. Now, Ishu, obviously, in his road opener form, more so when you go back to the form of the adversary in Kanbanda, yes. But there's many, you can use many for that. But in regards to your question, those two, I could see it, especially Hecate, most definitely, because of what she represents. Now, the other thing that you'd have to factor into that question is there a certain energy or something tragic or something negative, or what was the root cause of that energy? That also might shift you to working with specific spirits or demons or gods or goddesses. Just depends, right? So, but I could see using those two if need be, right? All right, so there's a classic example, Mojo. When we die, are we conscious or in a dream-like phase? See, that's the thing I'm talking about. That's a question. If I sat here and tried to answer that to you in three-dimensional existence, that it'd be pure bullshit. Anybody that tries to answer that would have to experience death in order to answer it. Do you understand where I'm getting at? Okay. Now I can tell you through ritual work, and I'm not going to get into detail. I mentioned this to you guys before in the past couple of years ago. I did a ritual working with Samael to experience what it would be actually like if I transitioned on and died. But that's subjective in nature. So I'm not going to go into all that. I have my own personal answer and understanding to that, but anybody that attempts to answer that would just be giving you a philosophical opinion, right? I can tell you this, when you do research, information that's out there and what I experienced, there is for sure a level of consciousness there. Whether you're in a dreamlike phase, I mean, again, to answer a question from a death perspective, we would have had to experience that, right? Or died to experience it. But I can tell you from my own personal experience, from what others have recorded and experienced, and from what people have drawn from ancient texts like the Coming Forth by Day or the ancient Tibetan Book of the Dead and things of that nature, which you can only go by that to a certain degree. Consciousness and awareness for sure is definitely there. Okay. Devin McLean says it's a shame they use Soul Motive B a lot in Freemasonry. It's only a minor annoyance though, and I get that. Yeah, well, I mean, I get it. I mean, that shit all goes. Yeah, they use it in Masonry. They'll use it in the Order of the Golden Dawn. They use it in Order Templi Orientis (OTO). Again, to me, you're putting everything in the hands of beings that are spooky that don't really exist. You're saying, when you say so motive be, oh, so it is. I ain't got no control over it. So whatever happens, happens. That shows no confidence. That shows no affirmed belief, personal belief, not religious belief in yourself, that what you just carried out, okay, was effective. But I get you. Logan Scott says, in Thelema, your holy guardian angel is the essence and truth of who or what you are. In the draconian ritual book is called the daemon, but they make a distinction. It says draconian philosophy, the daemon is an integral part of the self, and the initiate's task is to absorb and unite this force, making it a powerful expression of our magical personality. So my question is, are we forging our daemon, or is it already who and what we are at our core? It is already who and what you are at your core, but what you're trying to do is remove the veil and all the illusionary aspects of yourself. That's what you just described. In order to get to that, we have to do all of that deprogramming. All that bullshit we've been indoctrinated with has created these false aspects of who and what we really are. This is why you've heard me over the years talk about the Trinity of Self. Most people spend their lives trying to be who they think they are. They also spend their lives trying to portray to others who they want them to see them as. But then the third part is who you really are is going to always come to the surface. Sometimes willingly, in a productive manner, but sometimes in a very painful manner. So your personal daemon, and really what Crowley was saying in Thelema with the Holy Guardian Angel, right? He says, if you've read the history and historia, Crowley says he was in the pyramids in ancient Egypt, and a being called Aloas was a manifestation of his holy guardian angel, revealed the book of the law to him, and was from that point on his holy guardian angel, et cetera, et cetera. That's the quick version, right? Whether we call it in lesser systems, the Christianity or the Catholics, they believe that each individual walks with a holy guardian angel. That's the more super watered down version of it. But yes, at the core, it's who we already are. And everything you just described from the Draconian Ritual book is talking about the process of what we have to go through to get to that, to bring that out. And a lot of it starts with deprogramming, detaching yourself from all the shit that indoctrinated you, because that's what buried or suppressed the personal demon at your core, where it doesn't emerge because you've embraced ideologies and doctrines and dogmas and information, and your mentality and your thought is not in alignment with who your true self is. So it can't emerge until you remove all the veils and illusionary parts of yourself that you embraced. And it starts, this is what I mean when I keep saying you gotta rid yourself of all things that serve you no purpose. Because you can't get to the core of that when you still got those things suppressing it. Okay? So hopefully that helps. All right, and Logan says, and also, does your daemon have limitations in terms of what it can help you and correct, achieve, or is it a jack of all trades? Jack of all trades, and the reason why I've used this term. Your personal daemon or your higher self is the conductor and the facilitator to all the spirits and the demons in the spirit world. What do I mean by that? I've said this before, okay? When you truly understand the science of demonic integration work and activating your personal daemon or your true or higher self, right? I always use this analogy to help you understand it is the jack of all trades, because here's why. I always use the analogy on the older cars, right? Not these newer cars, because you open the hood today, man, that shit looks like science project. Back in the day, the older cars, the engines were easy to get to. We did our oil change. We changed our spark plugs. We did all that basic shit. We didn't have to go to anybody to do it. Now with these foreign cars and all this high tech shit, you can't really fuck with that no more, because everything was synthetic. We used to do it. We used to do all that shit ourselves. Change our tires, oil changes, all that shit. You can't do that shit no more, though. They used to have a thing on the older cars and engines that the spark plugs were connected to called the distributor cap, right? You got to be back from that period to know what I'm talking about. So some of you newer folks, some of you youngins may not know what I'm talking about. So the distributor cap it was a cap that connected to a part of the engine that would turn the engine over, and each individual plug that gave a spark to the engine would be connected to the engine, to the distributor cap. The distributor cap was the root source of the energy that gave it the spark, and it took it from the cap to the plugs into the engine, and that's how your engine would crank. When the spark plugs would start going bad, you could usually feel it in the ride, or you would notice certain things. You might see when you change the spark plugs, you might see like oil in the engine block. A lot of things can go wrong when they're not working. So look at your personal daemon as the distributor cap. And right, we know the word to distribute. We know what distribute means. It's your connection. It distributes and connects your power and your energy to the spirit world, right? It is, look at everything hooked up to that distributor cap or personal daemon. Once everything is linked in and hooked up to it, that's when your spiritual growth starts to accelerate, because now the true self has come to the surface and emerged. You've suppressed the lower self, right? You've put it to the background. It's not the chief ruler domain no more. Now you're guided by your daemon, or as Crowley would refer to it as his holy guardian angel in that regards. Now, when that transition starts to happen, the best way I can describe it is you just notice. You feel it, you see the results every day, you see the changes, all these things you see through your work, overall results across the board. Doesn't mean there's not going to be issues, shit you're going to be dealing with. It just means that's not the focal point no more. Okay? So it is, bottom line, it is your facilitator and conductor to the higher understanding of the spiritual world. It connects you to these demons, gods, and goddesses, right? Because think about what I've been saying for years. If these gods and goddesses exist in the psyche of your subconscious mind before you manifest them, however you do, and whatever shape and form they take in your personal work, which is subjective by nature. If they exist in the power of your psyche, that would be in alignment with. If the personal daemon resides there too, it's the higher aspect of who you are, or as they say in Hermeticism, it is the genius self, right? The word D-A-E-M-O-N, daemon, right? It is the higher intelligent genius self. So yes, I definitely would say it's the jack of all trades. Mika says, are there any occult practices in Prince Hall Freemasonry? Yes. Now, when it comes to Freemasonic lodges, and I can tell you this from my experience being a Mason for years, a lot of it's going to depend on geographical location. A lot of it's going to depend on who the worshipful master of the lodge is. Like, for an example, my lodge for years has always had an esoterical society that meets every Thursday, and they talk about esoterical things, which is occult in nature. So there is some there, but a lot of it's going to depend on the lodge, right? Now, I noticed from my travels over the years, for an example, some lodges I've been to down here in the South and the Bible Belt, they're very religious, right? It just depends, right? If you go to a more diverse geographical location, right, you will see there's more esoterical occult stuff and things going on and avenues of to learn. So a lot of it is geographical location, but I can tell you this. Now, going to a lodge, for an example, in the Caribbean, like the Bahamas, which I've been to the Grand Lodge in the Bahamas, masonry is a little different over there. You might see aspects of Baron Samedi, right? The top hat, the worshipful master wears the top hat, the apron. I mean, there's some, in the Caribbean, they infuse, you will see voodoo and occult practices infused in Freemasonry. So again, I say that to just simply say it depends a lot on the lodge and the geographical location and who are the officers in the lodge, right? Because I say I've gone to some lodges in the Deep South and they ain't nothing but sanctified Christians. It's a different energy. Yeah, Diane Robinson, there's a book that just came out by Aseneth Mason in the Temple of the Ascendant Flame a couple of months ago called Hecate. That's the book I would recommend. Aseneth Mason is the author. Asenath Mason, Mason. All right. I'm gonna take a few more. I don't want to stay on here too long. Yeah, Papa Bones. Now, again, with Obia and Papa Bones, you're not going to find a lot of information book-wise. Yes, you can Google stuff on the internet. You'll find stuff here and there. It's one of the few spiritual systems. There's not a lot of written books on Obia. Obia is one of those systems that's passed from mouth to ear. Now, I know growing up in New York, especially in places like Flatbush and parts of Brooklyn that have a large, heavy Jamaican community, you will find a group of people there. Don't get fooled. They call themselves Shango Baptiste. They look like church folks. They wear all white. They basically are Obia practitioners. And this is why I say you're going to see a lot of similarities, like same thing with Ifa. Some of them hide behind Catholicism. But I'm very familiar. Some of you may or may not know there's a branch of them in New York. They refer to themselves as Shango Baptiste. They look like a Christian church, but they are nothing, have nothing to do with Christianity. Trust me when I tell you that. All right. So yeah, there's stuff you can Google and research, and not a lot of books. I can tell you that. I got introduced to it for the first time, probably, I think it was 92 or 93 in St. Croix, Virgin Islands. My oldest son's first mother is from there. And I spent some time in St. Croix, Virgin Islands in 92, 93. I was there for a little bit, about a year, maybe a little less, between 92 and 93-ish, somewhere around there. And that was my first encounter with it. And it's something that I stay connected with to a degree and work with for certain reasons. If you've ever seen on my altar, you probably never noticed it on near my ancestral altar, because there's spirit guides. One of the attributes of Papa Bones is a dice, black dice. And if you've ever noticed it, most people don't notice it. I have an encased, I bought a really nice one for him. I'm not going to get into the whole breakdown and the meaning on the dice. You can deviate and communicate with Papa Bones through dice. That's one way. I'm not going to get into that here, but I keep a charged set of dice and like the fancy dice the gamblers buy. It comes in a case, and the 2 dice are in it. That's for Papa Bones. When you see that in my altar, that's for Papa Bones. I keep there. That's my divination tool I use to communicate with Papa Bones. Okay. Devin McLean says, all those tristful winters. Oh, how you doing? Hello. All right. What is the meaning of the reconciliation of Horus and Set? All right. When you understand the word, English word to reconcile, right? To fix, repair. Now, depending on where you study or read this, but I'm going to tell you our way of absorbing this on the left-hand path or the occult. Okay. As I said before, and a book I can refer you to get a better understanding of this is Set the Outsider by Don Webb and Judith Page. And he breaks Set and Horus down, and to explain that reconciliation that you're talking about, he gets into what we call the Hawuti, which the Hawuti, if you've ever seen that, it's the one body, and it's got the head of Horus or Heru facing one way and the head of Set facing the other way, but connected to one body. Now, it goes deeper into the Book of Gates when you get into the bark of Ra-Re and his journey through the underworld, and how Set was the one sitting at the bark of Re, navigating the boat through the underworld. And then they get to Set and Heru at the 7th gate. When I get to that another time, that's part of the reconciliation. But what it really represents in that book, from a more esoterical occult perspective, he talks about in that book how Set represents red blood cells, rebellion, chaos, confusion. Now, having said that, I want to be clear. People get this always twisted or mixed up. It's not that Set causes chaos, confusion, and destruction in the individual's life. That's not what Set is attributed those attributes or titles for. We have to understand this, right? He's given those titles because he intentionally brings it out of the individual so they can make order out of it. Because look at the story of Set and Apep. I've talked about this many times. Set was the only one who could keep Apep at bay. Where Ra, every night from night till dawn, spend his whole nights trying to kill and destroy Apep. And Set said, get out of the way, Pop. You don't know what you're doing. Let me show you how this is done. Because you can't destroy energy. Set was the great manipulator out of manipulating that energy to create harmony. That's why in the month of July, we use Set in the entire month to work on ourselves, to bring harmony in the aspects of our life where there was chaos. So Set not only is the great god of destruction and chaos, but he is also the god that makes order out of that chaos. People always forget that part, right? So that's deeply rooted in the reconciliation. Now, Horus or Heru in that book, he refers to him connected to the white blood cells, conformity, okay, which deals with the lower self, the weaker self. So the reconciliation is between the higher self and the lower self. Set, the Hawuti, represents the emergence of light and darkness, or the lower self and the higher self, and how to infuse those energies in a harmonious form. That's the actual reconciliation process. So you need Heru, but it's not just about all light and love and Heru and I love you, brother, and Hotep and Alafia and all that other shit. You also need the chaos and the darkness, because all things come out of that chaos and darkness. That's where Set comes into play, which represents your higher self. I know all the other systems teach it reversed. Oh, Set is evil. He's the devil. He's this, he's that. That's that spooky shit. That's that Hotep shit that I'm talking about. That's that Hoteping. Everybody wants to Hotep it, right? Do your research. That's not true. Set, prior to the Osirian cult taking over Egypt after the 24th, 25th dynasty, okay, he was revered as one of the most highest deities in ancient Egypt. He held the position that Osir held in the underworld with Ampu, Go do your research. That changed when Osirian cult took rule. And it got to this day. Now Set was vilified as some demonic force. And basically, most Kemetic people basically give you a Christianized version and understanding of him because they're spooky. Heru is Jesus and Set is the devil. That's fuck off. I don't care. It's all nonsense. So the Hawuti represents that reconciliation or infusion or harmonization of putting the higher and the lower self in its perspective. That's why that whole story in the mythos of Set just killing Osiris, Osir, and his body parts being chopped up into 12 pieces and thrown into the Nile, that represented complete destroying and annihilating the lower self, the weaker self. And then what? The divine feminine came and had to take the 12 pieces of the body. She tried to gather them all. She gets the phallus, and now she's able to procreate. She creates another aspect, and we call this being Heru or Horus. But he doesn't understand his divine self. He's on a mission of doing good, according to the stories, and he goes up against Set to try to redeem the death of his father, and he loses his eye, right? All symbolic. What is this referring to? We see a later manifestation after that of Heru or Horus called the Hawk-Faced Lord, which is his darker aspect, because he came to the realization, he too realized it's not just about light and love. You need some of that dark, chaotic energy, but it's about knowing how to make order out of it, not letting it run amok. So the reconciliation, long story short, having said all that, there's more to it. I could do a 4-hour video on that topic. There's more to it. It's the reconciliation between the higher and the lower self. That's what the whole Set Heru thing represents, right? That's what the Cain and Abel thing represents. The two Warren brothers story that you see transition through many different religions and cultures, whether it was Cain and Abel in the Hebrew doctrine, whether it was Set and Osiris or Heru in the Egyptian doctrine, whether it was Enki and Enlil in the Sumerian doctrine. Anytime you see the two Warren brothers, it represents the battle of your will internally. You're wrestling with the lower and the weaker self, right? And like I mentioned a few weeks ago, that story also in the Bible, was it Exodus chapter 20 or 24? The story where Jacob wrestles with the angel of the Lord at a place called Peniel, right? Right there in your Bible, Pineal. I told you guys before, Jacob's ladder represents the spinal cord, right? Because the spinal cord at the top leads to the brain, right? And it says he climbed the ladder and wrestled with the angel of the Lord at Peniel. So it was just talking about his pineal gland being activated and opening himself up to embrace his true or higher self. That's why I told you before too, when you look at the painting of Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel, or that God, just look at that closely and superimpose a brain over that. That literally is a brain. You all seen that picture where it's a man and they're touching fingers. That ain't nothing but a brain when you look at it. So they're trying to tell you, these fuckers know. Even don't think that they believe in that religious shit. They hide it because behind closed doors, they know the real science, but they sell you the pipe dream. Okay? So look at that picture of the Sistine Chapel. It's nothing but a brain. Just look at it closely. And then now you go and read that story of Jacob wrestling with the angel of the Lord at Peniel, Peniel. You think it's a coincidence, Peniel and Pineal? Come on, man, stop. Who's playing games here? And then it goes on to say when he did merge with his higher self, the Bible then says he changed his name from Jacob to Israel or Yisrael. And the word Israel or Yisrael means to ascend to El, ascension or ascending to God or El. So he comes out of that experience. Now he's a God. He's awoke. He's awake. He's conscious, right? That's all it's talking about. This is stuff we talk about in the Occult Esoterical Bible Study class. I go through this whole thing and I show you how all those stories are nothing but occult stories. So the Bible is not a bad tool when you understand it from an esoterical occult perspective, but it's a bad tool when you embrace it as a man-made religion. Because all it is a book encoded with occult philosophy. You just got to know how to read it. Okay. All right, let me see if I take a few more here. So hopefully, Devon, I don't know if it's Devon or Devon. I know it can be pronounced both ways. Goddess Incarnate. All right, it's a powerful name. Goddess Incarnate. Stop. When I chant mantras, I feel certain energy and sometimes pain. I'm glad you say that. Pain within my body and its chakras. Does that mean that I have blockages? It could, but it doesn't just mean it could be blockages. Okay. Yes, that could be one thing, because always a lot of you'll read that in a lot of books on the chakras. A lot of people will tell you when you're doing, whether it's meditations, chanting, or mantras, if you feel pain in that particular chakra, how you can identify, here's what I would tell you. And we talk about this in the Kundalini meditation, yoga, awakening class, because we deal with the chakras in that class. Each chakra, as we know, is connected to vital organs in your body, every chakra, whether it's your endocrine system, your lungs, your kidneys, your heart. What I would suggest to you do to rule out that it's a blockage, or it could be bringing your awareness to something greater, like a health issue. Whatever chakra you're feeling that pain in, reference what vital organs are connected to that chakra, and then see if there's anything going on there and rule that out first, right? And if there's nothing going on there, also what it could be is you're activating high levels of that energy. And as I said, whether it's Kundalini awakening with the chakras or activating this energy in general, sometimes it's just the pain that you feel from it. I keep trying to tell people it's not all fluffy and lovey. Raising Kundalini energy, activation of the chakras sometimes can be a very painful thing, right? Not always pleasant. It could be emotionally, it could be mentally, and it could be physically, right? So I would look in those areas, but pay attention. Whatever chakra it is, there's a ton of books out there, and I'm sure you're already educated on that. Find out specifically what vital organs in your body. Now, if for an example, let's say you're working with a chakra and it's your lungs. You got any issues going on with your lungs? You got asthma? You're dealing with any breathing issues? Let's say it's something, maybe it's a chakra that keeps coming up, something directly related to the heart and circulation. Make sure you ain't got no blood pressure issues or any heart issues, right? So we want to rule out the physical pain or any type of ailments. And then if all that checks out and you're good to go, then it could just be you're getting the residual effects from the energy being activated. And it could be painful. So it could be blissful. It can be very uplifting, but it could be very fucking painful too. Okay. Yes, and the blockage part. Also, when we rule out that, every chakra, like for an example, the throat chakra deals with expression. So maybe you're feeling it in your throat chakra. Are you an introverted person? Do you have a hard time expressing yourself? Do you not speak up when you need to speak up? Do you stand up for yourself? Are you docile? Do you let people take advantage of your kindness? Then that could be a blockage, say, with the throat chakra. Maybe you're feeling it all the time in your throat chakra. That's how you can know it's a blockage, because each chakra deals, the root chakra. Maybe you're getting pain in your root chakra all the time. Maybe your finances are all fucked up. Maybe you're not grounded in your mundane life. Maybe you got a lot of personal problems, family problems, relationship issues. Your root chakra would probably feel fucked up. Maybe you're oversexed or lack of sex. Then your sacral chakra, you might feel pain there. Maybe you have no sexual discipline. I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying you per se. Maybe you fuck all the time and you're just addicted to sex. You would feel pain in that sacral chakra area because that deals with sexual energy, right? So that's the way to identify if it's a blockage or if it's an illness. There's ways to identify it. And again, this is stuff we go over in the Kundalini yoga meditation awakening class. We deal with the chakras and each diva or demon that's connected to the chakras. And I show people in that class each mantra that you utilize to activate the energy of those chakras. We go through each one of them. And we do the exercises sometimes in the classes, and then hopefully people take it on their own and they work with that. But yes, it could be blockage, it could be an illness, or it could just be the residual effects of activating the energy of that chakra, okay? So hopefully that helps. What's your thoughts, CJ Wally? What's your thoughts on creating your own magical entity? Hey, I mean, whether it's servitors, as long again as you know you're knowledgeable of what you're doing, I think it could be a very empowering thing. All I would say is do your due diligence. As long as you have knowledge of what you're doing and your clear intent and purpose for creating that magical entity. If all that is in alignment, power to you. Okay. Okay, we got Dakar, the Blue Geek. Are there any books you can recommend on the demon Senfarion? Trying to understand more about it. When you're dealing with the Goetias or the Lords of Darkness, individualized outside of like Goetias, like Paimon and some of the more well-known ones, I can't think of offhand a specific book, whether it's the Lords of Darkness, the Princes of Hell, or the Archdemons. That's one that you're not going to really find a lot of books. So I'm going to be honest with you. At the moment right now, I can't think of a particular book. Now, there's a lot of information on him, on that spirit scattered, I should say, in books abroad, but maybe if something comes to mind, I can put it out there. But now I'm going to be honest with you, nothing specifically excluded. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It could. I just may not be aware of it. So I couldn't give you a book specifically. Only thing I could tell you is keep searching through books on the Goetia and the Archdemons and Princes of Hell, and maybe you uncover some stuff. That's a tough one. Okay. Anthony, what's going on, brother? Xander says, I saw an open door. Yeah, Shango Baptiste. Look, I've been to a couple of Shango Baptiste get-togethers, if that's what you want to call it. Because as I said, the part of Queens I grew up in, East New York, I was a hop, skip, and a jump away from that part of Brooklyn. Because when you get on East New York and you get into Ridgewood, Queens, you just keep coming across. You're right into Bushwick. And then you keep working your way further through Brooklyn. You're going out. Then you're in Flatbush. You're in Coney Island. And all those areas. But I mean, being so close, literally, hop, skip, and a jump minutes away from Eastern Parkway, Cypress Hill, Bushwick, all those areas, there was a lot of Shango Baptiste practitioners in that area. So, yeah, interesting if you've experienced it. Okay. Baptiste in the storefront of an old church. They were working with fire. They let us sit in and watch. It was crazy. Olga. Yeah. It's definitely something to it's definitely something to get the mind prepared for. And see, that practice of working with fire with the Shango Baptiste or Obia, we do that too in Palo Mayembe. Like literally, we'll take like Sandalo 1800. You can even do it with Florida water, and we'll literally harness the flame in our hands. We'll put it on our hands, and you'll see all types of crazy shit. There's fire cleansings, which you think, why would you take flame? I'm talking about not just little flames. There's cleansings they do in pure fire, but you got to be in, sometimes you're in full spirit possessions. You got to understand, when you're fully possessed by a spirit, I told you guys this before, you're not going to be harmed or hurt by the spirit because you're being used as a vessel for the spirit. Like when you see in a lot of African traditional religions, like for an example, in Ifa or Palo Mayembe, when spirits come, they might drink, and it happens to me. I don't drink, but when I get possessed by certain spirits, I could drink a whole bottle of vodka, or not vodka, rum, and it doesn't even affect me. I told you I just come out of it with cotton mouth and super dry mouth, but I'm not a drinker. I don't drink at all. There's sometimes they'll test the spirit to make sure it's not bullshit, like in voodoo or voodoo. They'll put hot peppers on your genitals just to see if the spirit is authentic. Okay. It's a lot of crazy shit. I mean, and I've seen that happen, and that shit will blow your fucking mind. I seen one dude get possessed by, it was like a serpent spirit, and I'll never forget, he literally for about 20, 30 minutes straight. And if you see the way he was squiggling on the floor like a snake, and you could tell it was something that had his body. I mean, he was vitally, this was going on for about 20 minutes or so. He's going around the entire room on the floor, and the rate of speed he was moving like a snake. It was crazy. So there's a lot of shit there. They know the science. I'm not going to get into all that shape shifting and all that crazy shit. There's a lot. So That's why I say, man, be careful. You gotta know who you're dealing with. Okay. Yeah, the black dice almost make me want to go get it, but I don't feel like getting up. Yeah, let me go grab it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is I'm not going to get into the deep, but I'll show you. So let me see if you can see this. You see this? All right, so it's a black dice case, right? It's one dice, because 6, if you understand the science of proper bones, and 6. And then if you open this up, it has 4 smaller dice. Yeah. So this is what I use to deviate. When you understand the dice, I'm not going to get into all that here. But I keep these in this black dice case for proper bones, right? And there's certain numbers or combinations you keep. Like now, I'm not going to get into. I got 6122, right? But I'm not going to get into all that right now. And I keep it in here. See that? But yes, that's one of his deviation implements. So I'm gonna keep him here. He wants to stay here, so we'll keep him here for a quick minute. All right, what else we got? Diane, I don't even know when I'm going live either. So usually when I do a live, it's just in the spur of the moment because of just how crazy my schedule is. And we did a class earlier this afternoon. We did a 2-hour class on the Patreon. So I know next week my schedule is busy and I haven't done a live in about a week or two. So I said, let me get on here tonight. Let everybody know about the conference and, things of that nature. Because right now we're in the meet as we're approaching the conference now, which is about 5-6 weeks away. So trying to get all that organized and little guys traveling, playing hockey. I got a lot of shit going on right now. Between traveling, I'm helping my sister out now too. I know you guys, I appreciate you guys. Some of you guys sent me messages. I'm happy to inform you. My brother-in-law had very successful triple bypass surgery. He's recovering pretty fast, doing really good. Probably going to be another 6 or 7 weeks. So I'm also helping my sister now with her cleaning business at nighttime to help her out because he's not able to do it right now. And my older son is helping too. So it's a family thing. Family's first with us. We take care of family around here. So between running my business, doing the YouTube, and you see I'm driving, doing videos constantly. And, little guy playing hockey, traveling all over the place right now. And all this stuff. Got a lot going on right now. But guess what? I don't complain. I embrace it. I do what I got to do and just keep it moving. That's how that works. But I don't even know when I'm going to go live. So Shamsu Nekchar. Set was a part of. Yes, he was part of one of the 9 ENADs. That's correct. Okay. Iridu says, primary, okay, what do you think of the idea that chakras are implants? They are put there to enslave us. Some people say they remove theirs, but I am skeptical because I know chakras are magic. I've heard that. I can't speak too much on it. I personally don't agree with that. And I'm saying that from my own personal experience and spiritual work, which is the only way I can, answer a question like that. I've heard that. I don't believe that they're implants. That type of information exists in a lot of this reptilian conspiracy and a lot of this new age sci-fi stuff, I like to call it. Yes, I've heard the concepts. I don't personally, again, I can only say this from my personal experience. I don't really agree with any of that stuff. Again, questions like that I can only answer from my own personal experience. So I don't agree with any of that stuff. Some people don't even believe that chakras are real or they don't exist. And look, you're entitled to believe anything you want. It just doesn't mean I got to agree with it. And you don't have to agree with my ideology on it.
But I think when you look large as a whole in spiritual systems, most people are in agreement with the major functioning properties of the chakras. I know there's some people say it doesn't exist; they're not real, right? They're fake, and their way of trying to. It's just when they sit there and tell people who do accept the chakras is real, and they say prove it, and then you say to them, "Well, prove it doesn't exist." Now we got a back and forth fuckery because either way, it's not something that can be proved in a mundane existence. That's all I'm saying. But I don't agree with that ideology. Enter the crisis. What's going on, brother? Hope everything is well with you. Devin McLean says, thanks for shedding some light on that. Really helped. I'll definitely check out that book you recommended. Okay, cool. All in relation to our biology and metaphysics. I don't know what that was in reference to. Probably something I said earlier. I'm not sure. All right, let me see if I get a few more here. Samuel616, teeth and eyes are growing on grandma's corpse. Grandma put a curse on her before he ended himself. Then grandma ate my brother's pig and died. The pig already, I don't even know what the fuck that is. That just sounds like some rambling shit to me. What else we got? Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button, please. All right. What else we got? Yeah, it's a thing you have to come to your own conclusion. I personally don't do chakra work and remove them and doing just fine. I'm not dogmatic about like some others are. Yeah, I mean, for those that do, I mean, again, like you said, you don't really do work with it. When you understand them just as energy centers, more how they're connected to vital organs in the body, when you work with it more as focal points of energy centers, you know, there's some science there when you look at it. Again, there's going to be perspectives on it, right? There's some people, like I said, they don't either really study it or work with it, or there's some that will say it doesn't even exist, it's not real, and that's fine. But again, when it comes to things of that nature that exist outside three-dimensional person, place, or thing, and I can only speak on that from my own personal work. To me, they're very real. So if somebody comes to me and says, oh, they're not real, they're fake. Well, maybe in your experience, right? Maybe in your understanding, I don't care what information or sources that you're coming with, that's fine. You could come source all day. But it's not going to change my personal experience and what I experience. It's irrelevant. But I get what you're saying. All right, what else we got? All right, I see we at the bottom. Any other questions? All right, so we're going to get rid of this dude right here. We got some troll in here talking about stupidity. We ain't got time for that. All right, I don't see any other questions. It looks like I'm at the end of the chat. As I said, I said I'd be on here for a few minutes. That never happened. I mean, for a little bit. All right, here's one from D. Wimley. Any stories about women with the spirit of Nith in Egypt? Characters or traits that appear when she is around? Not that I can think of offhand, but if you're having any experience with that deity, the best I would tell you to do is read up on every attribute and characteristics and see if you're having anything in alignment with that. That will help to determine if you feel like her presence or energy is around you. That would be one way to do it. But any specific stories, I'm not saying I'm just not recollecting at the moment. There could be. And again, Neith is one of those deities too. You're not going to find a lot of separate information on her. You'll find stuff in books on Egypt and, different grimoires, but nothing at the moment that I could recollect. Not saying it doesn't exist. Okay. Okay, we got another douchebag in here. All right. Oh, shit. That was the wrong one. I got to fix that. My bad. Diane, I'll fix you. I don't know if you're still here. I made a mistake. I hit you. All right. I don't see anything else. Let me just see if I could go fix that real quick. Hold on. Made that mistake. See if I can unblock her. Hold on. Let's fix that. All right, I think I fixed you, Diane. That was by accident. You should be good now. All right, what else we got? Zachariah says, I don't know if I have a great I don't know if I have a great body. I'm just trying not to get old and decrepit. But I can tell you this. I always make this crystal clear. You should be making sure you're doing consistent exercise. As I said before, I'm not saying you need to be a gym rat and in a gym rat psychotic, but at minimum, and I really think it should be more. I mean, I do, for an example, a lot of it depends on your age. A lot of it depends on the type of workout and exercise that you're doing, right? It's a little different for when you get older in age, especially for men understanding testosterone levels. As I said, for a while, I was overdoing it with cardio. And I didn't realize I was told when I talked to a very knowledgeable trainer, he was like, no, that lowers your T levels. Don't do that shit. And as you get older, it doesn't build any muscle, right? And then we have to understand with cardio burns calories, right? It doesn't really necessarily make you lose weight. It temporarily makes you lose weight. It burns calories and it doesn't build muscle. So for an example, I can only speak at this perspective. Now, when you're young, it's a little different. You could do power, all this type of shit. But for an example, what I do, what my routine is, and you got to find what works for you. So for an example, on Tuesday, I do 9 rounds kickboxing fitness on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, I just do a little ab routine here in the house because rest and recovery is important. Now, Thursday and Friday, I go hard. Thursday, I do 9 rounds first, which is 30-minute kickboxing circuit training, which basically is you don't stop. You go 30 minutes hard. And it's called active periods of rest in between rounds. Okay. I don't know why the fuck they keep doing this. And then after I do the 9 rounds, this is Thursday and Friday, I leave there and go straight to Planet Fitness and I do a full body weightlifting workout. I don't do anything on Sunday. Now, Saturday today, what I do Saturday is I'll do at Planet Fitness 30 minutes of cardio, abs, and then I do 1 round on the circuit weights, which takes about 20 minutes, not even 15 minutes maybe. Because as you get older, it's also important how you feel, your energy levels, right? So you got to kind of surprise your metabolism. You got to kind of surprise your body. If you're doing the same things all the time, and that's kind of what I was doing with the cardio, you don't get the results. But there's a lot of work, right? There's a lot of work. It's tough when you get older. Like as much as I work out and exercise, and part of it sometimes is I got to discipline diet and eating a little better. Part of it is, not eating the right foods, right? I wish my belly was flatter, but sometimes it's genetics, we got a history sometimes in your family where there's a certain body type or build that happens. But all you could do, you do your best, but it's important, minimum, Anybody would tell you minimum 3 times a week, 30 minutes. I think it should be a lot more than that. That's just my opinion. So I try to do 4, occasionally 5 days a week, to the best of my ability. But again, the importance is trying to eat right. And I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I struggle with that. I got a sweet tooth, right? So sometimes you got to discipline yourself, and then eating at the right times of the night. Body type, and I'm sorry, blood type is critical to that too, right? Knowing your blood type is going to really dictate to you, excuse me, a lot of your eating habits and what you need, what the body needs, because each blood type, you'll see the characteristics and traits of certain vitamins, minerals, things they lack, levels of protein. And that's why I've said for years, not every diet, not one diet is conducive to every blood type, right? So yeah, that's the quick. I mean, I can go on a lot more, but that's the quick one. Well, hold on. I want to make sure. Yeah, she's still good, I think. Okay. No. All right. What else we got? So hopefully that helps. But again, your age too is critical, right? Core training. The reason it's even more important when you get older to work your core for just your everyday vital bodily functions, your flexibility, your ability to keep the strength in your legs, because your core really is, look at the core on your body as that's the foundation that keeps everything going. And that's one thing I realized, when you're focusing on a lot of cardio and things of that nature, you're not working your core. And the 9-round kickboxing, I remember when I first started it a little bit over a year ago, I remember that first week was a killer because I was working muscles I ain't never worked, especially core and lower body, So, and that's even more critical for when you become old, for your mobility, to be able to walk healthy for a long period of time. See, these things you start paying more attention to when you get in your 40s and 50s. Right? When you're young, you go hard. And it's not also for us to be going in there like a mom, it's understanding where you're at in your life, your age, and the type of workout you need designed for yourself based on that. That has a lot to do with it. Okay. But I wouldn't say I have a great body. It's a work in progress. I don't think it's there yet. Trust me when I tell you. There's always room for improvement. All right. What else we got? Yeah, that form of cardio is good. The burst, and even, I'm glad you bring it up. You're the 4 3-minute burst. They'll use that too in the circuit training with the 9 rounds, right? So I try to get more of that because 9 rounds kickboxing is strength and cardio combined. And I'll just do 2 separate cardio sessions during the week at Planet Fitness, and I don't exceed 30 minutes. I mean, I can go a lot longer. I used to do hour and a half, thinking that I was helping myself. I mean, I'd be on that motherfucker. I'd be on the elliptical. I'd do the bike or the treadmill, hour and a half, like it was nothing. But then I would get frustrated. I'm like, I just didn't feel like I was seeing or feeling anything. And then I didn't realize that it can prevent, muscle mass from building. And it was true. I wasn't getting the gains. I just look. When you get older, you're not trying to fight age. You see what's going on out here in the world. Plastic surgery, Botox, people just fucking them doing crazy fucking clown shit to their bodies. It's not just women anymore, it's men. Look, I'm not one of the motherfuckers trying to fight age. Dudes want to dye their beard and their hair gray. Look, I'm not knocking it. I just want to age gracefully. That's all. That's all. You look, I told you, Mother Nature's undefeated. You ain't defeating Mother Nature. Okay. So to me, my understanding, men are a little bit different than women. I mean, some women, not all. Some women are very superficial about aging. Me, I'm not. I don't. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to fight aging. You can't. You're not going to win that battle. But I think it is our duty on this path to age gracefully, is what I'm saying. And I'm just trying to age gracefully, not lose my damn teeth in my hair and get completely fucking chaotic, looking like some fucking monster. Because I've seen some dudes I've grown up with. No offense, it's scary to see what some of these dudes look like now. Some of them, I mean, I'm 51. There's some dudes I know that 51, they look like they're 71. And I ain't trying to be that dude, right? And by keeping your mind active and healthy is just as important as your body. When you got a idle mind, you get old quick. You feel old, and that can affect the way you look too, 100%. You know, but anyway, all right. I think that's enough for me. I'm gonna wrap it up. Went a little longer than I wanted. I got some stuff I need to do before the night is out. All right. Don't know when I'm going to come back on live again. I'll just pop on. I'll try to squeeze one in next week at some point. But as I said, a lot going on right now. Travel hockey's in full effect now with my little guy. We got the conference right around the corner next month, October 19th to the 22nd. So hopefully some of you guys can make it. I know some of you are already booked. I know some of you who are coming, some people returning, this, that, and the other. Hopefully we will, see some newer faces there, but we'll see. But I'll get on here when I can. Again, don't forget to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti. Patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, tier 3. That's the tier you want to join. That'll give you access to the 3 private classes that I do every month on Patreon. All right. In addition to the group ritual we do at the end of the month. That's the way you get in on the classes. Also, if you need to reach out to me for a reading, the email is right there on the ticker. Also, it's in the description box of the video, along with the direct link to the podcast and the Patreon link. All that is in the description box of this video you're watching. All right, that's it for now. We'll talk soon, whenever that will be, because I don't even know when that's going to be. But I'll be posting some short videos throughout the week, like I've been doing for the last few weeks. I got some videos I'll film throughout the week. I'll do one tomorrow, and I'll get some videos out as we go through the week. All right, we'll talk soon. Appreciate you guys. Infernal blessings, and I'll see you guys soon.